Well, hello everyone, and welcome to this short video that will be going through the corrections for the Human Digestive System worksheets. Okay, so I'll be putting the worksheets on this side, on the left, and the answers will be on the right side. Now, I'll only be going through the questions that more people got wrong. So if you have any questions that I didn't go through and you're still not sure, you can check with your friends, or you can come and look for me. Also, you can pause the video at any time if you need more time to copy down the corrections. Alright, so let's get going. So we begin with worksheet 1. In worksheet 1, here are the MCQ answers. Alright. Now, the question that a lot of people got wrong, question 3, okay, which of the following is not a carbohydrate? A lot of people put the answer as cellulose. Cellulose is a carbohydrate. Okay, like starch, it is also made up of many units of glucose. Alright, so the one that's not a carbohydrate is glycerol. Glycerol is part of fat. Okay, so that's not a carbohydrate. Alright, the next part will be this question. So question 6, this diagram most people got it correct. Alright, the functions most people got it correct as well. This is a fat molecule. P is glycerol, and there's 3 fatty acids. Now the one that most people didn't get is the organelle in the cell, which has a high percentage of fat. I think I mentioned this briefly in class. It is the cell membrane. Okay, the cell membrane is made up largely of fat. And finally, we have question 7. Question 7 asks you to select the food with the main nutrient for the following functions. So primary source of energy to do work, this is your carbohydrates. Right, they're your immediate source of energy. And the answer is the cereal, bread, and potato. These are common sources of carbohydrates. Alright, next one, grow and new cells and repair worn out cells to be your proteins. Okay, and the common sources of protein, your fish, egg white, and chicken, your meats. Alright, some people mentioned milk. I also gave this as correct. Milk also does contain some protein. And finally, okay, to insulate your human body from excessive heat loss, this will be your fats. Right, and fat, the common sources here, your milk. Milk has fat, cream, and also your margarine. Okay, so these are the things which are the nutrients for the following foods. Alright, so we're done with worksheet 1. Okay, I'm going to close that. Right now, I need to take out your worksheet 2, and we're going to go through worksheet 2. Okay, so now you should be opening and looking at your worksheet 2. Okay, so worksheet 2 starts with this fill in the blanks. Most of y'all got it correct. Okay, so quite a good effort here. The main thing which I think some of y'all got confused is the second paragraph about starch. Okay, so starch is a carbohydrate. The enzyme that breaks down starch is amylase, and it breaks it down to maltose. Then maltose is broken down to glucose by maltase. Okay, so some of y'all confused, y'all thought maltose was broken down to maltase by enzyme glucose. Okay, remember that the enzymes end with ASE, okay, all the enzymes, amylase, maltase, and so on. And the other thing is, please write your maltose and maltase clearly. Some of your maltose looks like maltase and maltase looks like maltose. So you need to write clearly so that I can see whether it's an O or an A. Okay, the rest of it, more or less, most of y'all got it correct. So if you need, just pause it here and copy down the answers. So we'll move on to the multiple choice questions. Alright, so here are the multiple choice questions. Okay, the answers for the MCQ are shown here. D, C, C, B, D, B. Okay, so pause here, copy down the answers, then I'll go through a few of the main questions. Alright, so firstly, question 2 is poorly done. Alright, so which of the following statements about chemical digestion is correct? Okay, so remember from your notes that chemical digestion is the one that requires enzymes, right? And it also produces new substances. And so the correct answer is C, because chemical digestion produces new substances. For example, one example of chemical digestion is starch being broken down by amylase to become maltose. So you can see that there's a change in the substance from starch to maltose, right, and an enzyme is involved. Okay, and it's not about increasing the surface area to volume ratio. This one is physical digestion. Alright. and also teeth breaking out food particles is physical digestion. Alright. Alright, for question 3, the answer is C. Alright, if this is starch, after you add amylase, amylase will break down starch to maltose, and remember maltose is made out of 2 units of glucose. Okay, so the answer is C, because this is maltose, right? 2 units of glucose. Some of y'all put D, but D is not correct, because this is glucose, not maltose. Alright, question 4 is also not very well done. And which of the following statements about enzymes is not correct? So you need to know what are the basic features of enzymes. Enzymes are proteins, so A is correct. Okay, enzymes remain unchanged at the end of reaction, and they speed up chemical digestion. So B is not true, because enzymes are specific in action. Right? Enzymes are specific in action, so they can only act on one type of food molecule. Alright, next we move on to question 5. Now question 5, a lot of you didn't get it right as well. So what you see here in this diagram, right, you see that in diagram X at first, there are fat globules, there's some starch, and there's a piece of meat. Now after 5 hours, what do you observe? The fat has become smaller. Why? Because fat has been digested. The meat has become smaller. Why? Because protein has been digested. The starch, well, what do you notice? It remains the same. So starch is not digested. So we know that there is fat digestion, right? So I just write it here. Fat is digested. Protein is also digested. But starch is not digested. So what does the mixture contain in order to cause this to happen? So the solution contains protease and lipase, because protease will digest the protein, lipase will digest the fat. The solution, okay, A is not correct, because if amylase was there, then the starch should be digested. Okay, so that's the answer for question 5. Alright, question 6, most people got it correct, so we'll just move on. Alright, next, question 7. So question 7 state which food provides the greatest amount of energy. Most of you all managed to get it, that is bread. In order to get both marks, the full marks, you must state that bread has the highest percentage of carbohydrates. Okay, take note, you need to follow the table. The table shows percentage, so mention that it is the highest percentage. Right, some of you all wrote the highest amount or highest mass. Okay, but this is not really accurate because the table shows percentage composition. It doesn't show you amount, it doesn't show you the mass. Okay, secondly, you have to state that carbohydrates provide an immediate source of energy. Some of y'all missed out one of these points. Okay, next part. The main carbohydrate found in bread is starch. How is starch broken down? Okay, most people got this part correct. Just take note again that you need to write maltose and maltase clearly. And finally, for part B2, okay, which gives the marathon runner a better energy boost just before his race? And a glucose drink is the correct one. Okay, glucose drink will be a better energy boost. Most of you all got that. Okay, but the explanation, some of you all didn't really get it very well. Firstly, you need to state that glucose does not need to be digested in order to be absorbed, right? It is already a small and simple substance, or it is the simplest form of carbohydrate. Okay, starch on the other hand is large and complex, so it needs to be digested in order to be absorbed. And therefore, glucose can be absorbed more quickly than starch. Now, one common error that some people make is that you all say that glucose is easier to digest, or glucose takes a shorter time to be digested. However, glucose does not need to be digested, right? It is already in a form that can be absorbed without digestion. The other difficulty some of you all have is you're not able to describe glucose as the simplest form of carbohydrate. So you write all sorts of funny things, like here. Okay, but you need to just say that, glucose is the simplest form, or is already a small and simple substance. Alright? Okay, for this last question, is generally okay. Okay, but for the definition of enzymes, some of you all forgot to mention that enzymes remain unchanged at the end of the reaction. Okay, secondly, the enzyme is protease, because it breaks down the egg white. Why is it that lipase cannot digest egg white protein? Okay, the reason is because lipase is specific in action it can only act on fat but not protein. So most of you all wrote this point that it can only act on fat, but you need to also state the characteristic of lipase. It is that it is specific in action, or that it can only act on one substance, okay, to get the full marks. Okay, that's great. That's all for worksheet 2. Please take out your worksheet 3 now. Alright, please open up your worksheet 3. Okay, so worksheet 3 begins with this table here. It's a summary table. Okay, the answers are here on the right. You can pause the video to write down the answer. Okay, the main thing that most people couldn't get was this part. Okay, that the small intestine and the pancreas produce these following enzymes. Okay, the other thing that people got didn't finish exactly is that the proteins are actually broken down to polypeptides, but further broken down to amino acids in the small intestine. Okay. Alright, next we'll be looking at the MCQ. So here are the answers for the MCQ. Alright, C, B, C, D, C, B, A, D. Okay, so you can pause the video here if you need to. Okay, just going to go through the questions that a few people got wrong. Okay, so question 4, which following enzymes can be found in the small intestine? Okay, the answer is lipase, amylase, and protease. Some people just put C, right? It is true that amylase is produced by the pancreas, alright, but the pancreas will produce amylase, and then the amylase will be secreted into the small intestine. So amylase will be found in the small intestine as well. Alright, next question 7. Okay, this represents the molecules of food molecules. Which mix will be found in the stomach? Now, very many of y'all put answer as C because you thought stomach digests protein. So yeah, only the protein is digested. But you cannot forget that by the time you reach the stomach, starch is also digested, right? Starch is also broken down to maltose. So the answer is actually A because you can see that the starch is broken down to maltose. And then by the stomach as well, the protein is broken down to polypeptide. So starch broken down to maltose in the mouth, and then protein broken down to polypeptide in the stomach. Okay, finally, question 8. Which bar chart represents the amount of starch digested in the mouth, stomach, and small intestine? So you should remember that in the mouth, right, there's salivary amylase. So starch is digested, but not very much because we chew the food and then we swallow it very quickly. In the stomach, there is no starch digested, right? There's no amylase in the stomach. And the small intestine, there's amylase produced by the pancreas. So starch will be digested there. And there will be more starch digested in the small intestine compared to the mouth because the food is in the small intestine for a longer time. So the answer should be D, right? Starch is digested in the mouth, none in the stomach, and then small intestine has the most. Alright, we're going to move on now to the structured question. Alright, firstly for the structured question, question 9, here are the answers. Okay, the main thing that some people miss out is that water and mineral salts are also absorbed in the small intestine, and the pancreas also produces amylase. Alright, for part B1, most people got it. Now for part B2, most people didn't know where physical digestion takes place in the small intestine. Okay, the physical digestion, remember, is breaking up big pieces into smaller pieces. So that will be bile emulsifying fat. Alright, and finally, why is physical digestion important? Because it increases the surface area to volume ratio of the food for enzymes to act on. Alright, next for the last part, organ G is the pancreas. And without the pancreas, right, fat digestion would be less effective or less efficient. Because the pancreas produces lipase. Okay, most of y'all got this. Pancreas produces lipase. So without the pancreas, less lipase is produced. But you need to tell me also that the small intestine still produces lipase. Right? So there's still lipase being produced, but less because the pancreas is not there. And therefore, there will still be fat digestion, but it is less efficient. Okay, so that's all. Let's move on to the last question. Okay, finally we reached the last question. Okay, so for this question, they ask you to state the main nutrient in each component. So fish, meat, mostly protein. Okay, fries, potato, mostly carbohydrate. Some people put fat, that's okay, but mainly it's potato, so carbohydrates. Mayonnaise is quite high in fat, okay, so fats. Okay, we move on now to part B. Alright, part B asks you to describe how each component of the meal is digested in the mouth, then the stomach, then the small intestine. Now, when answering this question, you need to take note of a few things. Okay, so here's the answer first. Okay, so I just want to highlight a few things before I let you all see and copy down the answers. First thing is, when you answer this question, you need to be very clear whether you're talking about physical digestion or chemical digestion. So for example, in the mouth, right, we know that a starch is chemically digested by the enzyme amylase into maltose. So starch is broken down to maltose by amylase. Now this is a very helpful sentence structure, right? So for example, nutrient is broken down to nutrient by amylase. So you see this again here for the stomach. Protein is broken down to polypeptide by protease. You need to use this sentence structure. Some of y'all miss out the enzyme name. Some of y'all miss out what the food is broken down into. Some of y'all miss out which food is broken down. So that's talking about chemical digestion. You can just say something is broken down to something by an enzyme. Now the next thing to note is, you also need to talk about physical digestion, right? If the question says digested, it doesn't specifically say physical or chemical digestion. Please mention physical digestion too. So in the case of the mouth, the physical digestion is chewing, right? Tearing and grinding by the teeth. Now, does it apply to, which food does it apply to? So for the mouth, some of y'all put that it applies to fish and it applies to mayonnaise. But you left out fries. Now, why is that? Just because fries has starch which is broken down to maltose, that means chemical digestion, just because it has chemical digestion doesn't mean that it doesn't have physical digestion. So starch in the mouth also is physically digested by chewing, and then after that it is chemically digested by the amylase enzyme. Now the last thing to take note of is that you should mention that it is the starch in the fries that is digested. Some of y'all just wrote fries is digested to maltose. You just wrote fries is digested to maltose. Now fries is not just made out of starch. The main component, the main nutrient in fries is starch, but it's not just starch alone. So when you say fries is digested to maltose, it's not very accurate because fries has other things inside too, like salt or whatever. Okay, so you should write that specifically it is the starch in the fries that is digested to maltose. That's more clear, it's more accurate. Same thing, it's not just fish broken down to polypeptide by protease, right? Because fish contains other things as well, like the fish skin has fat. So it should be more specific, it is the protein in the fish that is broken down to polypeptide. Okay, so with that, here's the answer. It's quite straightforward. So in the mouth, all components, including the fries, undergo physical digestion by chewing. Then chemical digestion is only the starch in the fries broken down to maltose by amylase. In the stomach, all components are physically digested by churning, which is the stomach contracting. And then only the protein is chemically digested due to protease. And in the small intestine, you have a lot happening. So the first thing is protein is broken down to polypeptide by protease, and you can state specifically that the protease is found in the pancreatic juice. Same thing after the polypeptide is broken down to amino acids by protease. So notice again that I'm using this sentence structure, right? Polypeptide broken down to something by what enzyme? Okay, the protease that breaks it down to amino acid is found in the intestinal juice. Then of course also there's amylase that breaks down starch. There's maltase that breaks down maltose. Okay, some of y'all missed out this. You missed out the physical digestion due to emulsification, where large fat droplets are broken down to smaller fat droplets. And then of course lipase is then breaking down fat to fatty acids and glycerol. Okay, so please learn how to answer questions like this. Okay, and they're often very easy to score the marks. You just need to know how to write out the sentences clearly and describe it clearly. Alright, that's all for the corrections. I hope that's helpful for digestion, and let's really revise this topic well so that we'll do well for the end of the year. Okay, I'll see you then.